I poured every fiber of my being into raising my 2 children, David and Clara. From the moment they were tiny, squalling babies, I lived for them. I missed holidays. I worked nights cleaning offices, scrubbing floors until my hands ached. Also, they could have a better life, so they wouldn't know the hunger I knew, or the worn-out shoes. I sacrificed my youth, my dreams of traveling, even the quiet moments I craved for myself. I gave them everything. My youth, my dreams, my very last penny, every drop of my strength. And when the fog started to creep into my mind, when words slipped away like sand through my fingers, and familiar faces blurred at the edges, when the doctor finally gave a name to my forgetfulness, early Alzheimer's, they didn't just abandon me. No, my David, my Clara. They were much more cruel. They sat by my bedside holding my trembling hands, convincing me so lovingly that it was for my own good to sign over my life savings, the small pension I'd worked decades for. They promised to use it all for my comfort, for my care. "We'll always be here, Mama," they whispered. But what happened next broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. They emptied my apartment, the one filled with 60 years of memories, sold my few precious belongings, my mother's locket, my wedding ring, and placed me in this quiet room, so stark and empty, far from everything I knew. And then, they simply vanished. The phone that used to ring every Sunday precisely at 2 p.m. stopped, every single week. This is my story. My name is Martha. I'm 82 years old, and I need you to listen, truly listen, because sometimes the fear that I'll forget even this part, the most painful part of my truth, makes me cry every single night. I don't want it to vanish. Not yet. Ah, yes, David and Clara, my children. Before this quiet room, before the whispers about my mind, there was a house, a home filled with so much laughter, it used to echo off the walls. Sometimes now, I close my eyes and I can almost hear it, almost feel the tiny sticky hands in mine. It was a proper home, you know? Not fancy, but it smelled of freshly baked bread and a little bit of dust and always of children. My David. He was a whirlwind. From the moment he could walk, he was exploring, touching everything, always asking, "Why, Mama? Why?" His little fingers, pudgy and warm, would hold on to mine as we walked to the park, his eyes wide with wonder at every squirrel, every falling leaf. I remember one crisp autumn morning. He must have been 4, maybe 5. He came inside with his pockets absolutely overflowing with acorns. He was so proud. "Look, Mama," he beamed. "Treasures for you." And I scooped him up, that sweet, earthy scent of fallen leaves and boy filling my nose. And I just held him tight, feeling his small heart beating against mine. Those acorns, I kept them in a little jar on the windowsill for years. He always wanted to be an engineer, my David. He'd build elaborate contraptions out of old cereal boxes and string, his brow furrowed in concentration. He'd call me over, his eyes sparkling. "Look, Mama, it works." And I'd pretend to be amazed, even if it was just a cardboard box with a wobbly wheel. My chest would swell with such pride. That was my boy, my clever, clever boy, and Clara. Oh, my sweet Clara. She was a different kind of light, quiet, thoughtful, with eyes that saw the world in colors no one else did. She loved to draw, sketching intricate little fairies and fantastical creatures on every scrap of paper she could find. I remember her, maybe 7 or 8, sitting at the kitchen table, her tongue sticking out just a little as she concentrated, her small hands smudged with charcoal. She'd present her latest drawing, a vivid garden or a majestic bird, and I'd ooh and ah, truly impressed. I'd pin them all up on the refrigerator, a kaleidoscope of her imagination, until there was no space left. She had this soft, musical laugh, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I remember baking cookies with her, her tiny hands carefully pressing out the dough, dusted with flour. The smell of warm vanilla and chocolate chip mingling with her innocent giggles. That's a smell that still tugs at my heart. She'd leave a little trail of flour dust wherever she went. My sweet little artist. She wanted to be a teacher, my Clara. She'd line up her dolls and teddies, pretending to teach them their ABCs, her voice so patient and kind. We didn't have much, not in terms of money, but we had a wealth of warmth. Our Christmases were never grand with expensive presents, but they were full of homemade ornaments Clara had painted, full of David's excited shouts as he unwrapped a new book, full of the smell of pine and the sound of carols sung a little off-key. I'd save up all year, sacrificing a new coat or a nice meal for myself, just to make sure they had that one special toy, that one dress or pair of shoes. It was worth every penny, every aching bone from my cleaning jobs, to see their faces light up, to hear them say, "Thank you, Mama," with that pure, unconditional love. Sunday dinners, those were sacred. We'd squeeze around our small table, sometimes with a neighbor or two, and the air would hum with conversation and clinking cutlery. David would recount his latest adventure. Clara would share a new drawing, and I'd just sit there, watching them, listening, feeling utterly complete. They were my world, my purpose. Every single decision I made, every struggle I endured, it was all for them. To give them a launch pad, a chance to soar higher than I ever could. I taught them right from wrong. I taught them kindness. I taught them the value of hard work, just as my own mother taught me. I loved them fiercely, unconditionally, with a love so vast it filled every corner of my being. I remember when David graduated from college, the first in our family to do so. He looked so handsome in his cap and gown, his eyes shining. He hugged me so tight, lifting me off my feet, and whispered, "I did it, Mama," for us. And then Clara, when she got her first teaching job, she came running to me, her face flushed with excitement, saying, "I can finally help you, Mama. I can finally take care of you, the way you took care of me." Tears streamed down my face that day, tears of pure, unadulterated joy. I felt like the luckiest woman on earth. My children, my beautiful, successful children. I had done it. I had raised good people. I truly thought, that all my sacrifices had been worth it, that our future, our family, was secure. If you knew what I discovered at the end of this story, you might still have time to avoid making the same mistake my children did. Because the way they repaid that love, the way they broke the promises they made on those very special days, it's a wound that never heals, not even for an old woman whose mind sometimes forgets the day of the week, but remembers the sting of abandonment like it happened just yesterday. I remember every laugh, every touch, every promise. And that's the part that really kills me. Ah, yes. David and Clara, my children. Before this quiet room, before the whispers about my mind, there was a house, a home filled with so much laughter, it used to echo off the walls. Sometimes now, I close my eyes and I can almost hear it, almost feel the tiny sticky hands in mine. It was a proper home, you know. Not fancy, but it smelled of freshly baked bread and a little bit of dust, and always of children. My David. He was a whirlwind. From the moment he could walk, he was exploring, touching everything, always asking, "Why, Mama? Why?" His little fingers, pudgy and warm, would hold on to mine as we walked to the park, his eyes wide with wonder at every squirrel, every falling leaf. I remember one crisp autumn morning. He must have been 4, maybe 5. He came inside with his pockets absolutely overflowing with acorns. He was so proud. "Look, Mama," he beamed. "Treasures for you." And I scooped him up, that sweet earthy scent of fallen leaves and boy filling my nose. And I just held him tight, feeling his small heart beating against mine. Those acorns, I kept them in a little jar on the windowsill for years. He always wanted to be an engineer, my David. He'd build elaborate contraptions out of old cereal boxes and string. His brow furrowed in concentration. He'd call me over, his eyes sparkling. "Look, Mama, it works." And I'd pretend to be amazed, even if it was just a cardboard box with a wobbly wheel. My chest would swell with such pride. That was my boy. My clever, clever boy. And Clara. Oh, my sweet Clara. She was a different kind of light, quiet, thoughtful, with eyes that saw the world in colors no one else did. She loved to draw, sketching intricate little fairies and fantastical creatures on every scrap of paper she could find. I remember her, maybe 7 or 8, sitting at the kitchen table, her tongue sticking out just a little as she concentrated, her small hands smudged with charcoal. She'd present her latest drawing, a vivid garden or a majestic bird, and I'd ooh and ah, truly impressed. I'd pin them all up on the refrigerator, a kaleidoscope of her imagination, until there was no space left. She had this soft, musical laugh, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I remember baking cookies with her, her tiny hands carefully pressing out the dough, dusted with flour. The smell of warm vanilla and chocolate chip, mingling with her innocent giggles. That's a smell that still tugs at my heart. She'd leave a little trail of flour dust wherever she went. My sweet little artist. She wanted to be a teacher, my Clara. She'd line up her dolls and teddies, pretending to teach them their ABCs, her voice so patient and kind. We didn't have much, not in terms of money, but we had a wealth of warmth. Our Christmases were never grand, with expensive presents, but they were full of homemade ornaments Clara had painted, full of David's excited shouts as he unwrapped a new book, full of the smell of pine and the sound of carols sung a little off-key. I'd save up all year, sacrificing a new coat or a nice meal for myself, just to make sure they had that one special toy, that one dress or pair of shoes. It was worth every penny, every aching bone from my cleaning jobs, to see their faces light up, to hear them say, "Thank you, Mama," with that pure, unconditional love. Sunday dinners, those were sacred. We'd squeeze around our small table, sometimes with a neighbor or two, and the air would hum with conversation and clinking cutlery. David would recount his latest adventure. Clara would share a new drawing, and I'd just sit there, watching them, listening, feeling utterly complete. They were my world, my purpose. Every single decision I made, every struggle I endured, it was all for them. To give them a launch pad, a chance to soar higher than I ever could. I taught them right from wrong. I taught them kindness. I taught them the value of hard work, just as my own mother taught me. I loved them fiercely, unconditionally, with a love so vast it filled every corner of my being. I remember when David graduated from college, the first in our family to do so. He looked so handsome in his cap and gown, his eyes shining. He hugged me so tight, lifting me off my feet, and whispered, "I did it, Mama, for us." And then Clara, when she got her first teaching job, she came running to me, her face flushed with excitement, saying, "I can finally help you, Mama. I can finally take care of you, the way you took care of me." Tears streamed down my face that day. Tears of pure, unadulterated joy. I felt like the luckiest woman on earth. My children, my beautiful, successful children. I had done it. I had raised good people. I truly thought, that all my sacrifices had been worth it, that our future, our family, was secure. If you knew what I discovered at the end of this story, you might still have time to avoid making the same mistake my children did. Because the way they repaid that love, the way they broke the promises they made on those very special days, it's a wound that never heals, not even for an old woman whose mind sometimes forgets the day of the week, but remembers the sting of abandonment like it happened just yesterday. I remember every laugh, every touch, every promise. And that's the part that really kills me. It didn't happen all at once, you see. It wasn't a sudden, sharp knife to the heart. No, it was slower. Like a plant, a beautiful blooming plant, that gradually withers, one leaf at a time because someone just forgets to water it. Or maybe they remember, but they're too busy, or the water is too far away. That's what it was like, this slow, agonizing fade. My 75th birthday. That was the first one I truly felt. Clara had always made me a lemon meringue pie, my favorite. David would bring a bouquet of those bright yellow tulips, the ones that always reminded me of his sunny disposition as a boy. I woke up that morning, humming a little tune, thinking about the pie, the flowers, the calls. I even put on my blue dress, the one they always said made my eyes sparkle. I waited. I cleaned the house. I baked a small cake myself, just in case. The phone sat silent on the table, a black, unmoving sentinel. Noon came. Then afternoon. The sun started to dip, casting long shadows across the empty living room. I kept telling myself, they're just busy. Traffic, maybe. They'll call soon. I made myself a small dinner, pretended not to notice how quiet the house was. The pie sat untouched, the cake too. When David finally called, almost at 10 p.m., his voice was rushed. "Happy birthday, Mama. So sorry. Work was crazy. Kids had a soccer game, just swamped." He didn't even mention the tulips. Clara called the next day. "Oh, Mama, I completely forgot. We had a parent-teacher conference. Then little Lily had a fever." My heart, it sank a little. Just a little. But I said, "Oh, it's all right, darling. I understand. Don't worry about it. I'm just happy to hear from you." I pretended everything was fine so I wouldn't be a bother. That was my first mistake, I think, being too understanding. After that, the excuses became a melody, a tune I learned to recognize, even before they spoke. "Too much traffic, Mama. The kids have school projects. We're going away for the weekend. Just so swamped at work, you know how it is. Every Sunday I'd still clean the house just like I did when they were little, hoping, praying, that one of them would drop by unexpectedly. The silence in the house grew heavier, a thick blanket woven from absence. I started talking to my old photographs. My husband, bless his soul, looking so young and vibrant in his army uniform. My parents, their stern but loving faces. And David and Clara, those happy, mischievous smiles from childhood. "Remember this, darling?" I'd whisper to a faded picture of Clara on a swing set. "Remember how much fun we had?" The photographs never answered, of course, but it felt a little less lonely, pretending they did. Wait. I haven't told you the most painful part yet, because it wasn't just the forgetting, you see. It was the feeling, the slow, cold dread that settled in my bones, that they were forgetting me. Not just my birthday, but the woman who raised them, the mother who cleaned offices until her hands bled for them. Then came the calls about my memory. Not from me, no. Never from me. From David. From Clara. Mama, you forgot our dinner plans last week. Mama, you left the stove on. Small things at first. Things I could explain away or apologize for or blame on my age. But then they started to look at me differently, with a kind of pity, a distant concern. Like I was a broken clock that still ticked, but not quite right. They'd finish my sentences for me, or talk over me, as if my words didn't quite matter anymore. One Tuesday, Clara called. Her voice, usually soft, was tight, brittle. Mama, she started. David and I have been talking. We think it's time you had more help. Proper care. My heart stopped. I knew what that meant. I knew it in my bones. Help? What help, darling? I'm perfectly fine. I manage everything. I heard a sigh on the other end, David's voice in the background, muffled. Mama, you forgot your medication again last night. Mrs. Henderson from next door called us. She was worried. Mrs. Henderson, bless her kind heart. But I was so angry, so hurt. Did they really think I couldn't manage? Was I such a burden already? I could feel the tears welling up, but I swallowed them down. I wouldn't cry, not in front of them, even over the phone. I'm sorry, I managed to say, my voice a thin whisper. I had a lot on my mind. Then came the day they sat me down, both of them, in my own living room, the one where David had piled acorns and Clara had drawn her fairies. David held my hand, his grip gentle, but firm. Mom, he said, his voice softer than I'd heard it in years. We found a wonderful place. It's beautiful. They have nurses, activities, other people your age. Clara nodded, her eyes glistening. It's for your own good, Mama. For your safety. They painted a picture of a lovely, vibrant community. But all I heard was, we don't want you anymore. The pain was physical, a sharp searing ache right in my chest. But my home? My things? I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. I built this house. I raised you here. David squeezed my hand. It's too much for you now, Mom. Too many stairs. Too much to clean. They convinced me, with soft words and endless reassurances, that it was the best thing. The only thing. I felt like a child, incapable of making my own decisions, helpless. What could I do? Where could I go? I had no other family, no one else to turn to. But what happened next broke my heart into 1,000 pieces, the way they swept through my life, dismantling it without a second thought. They came with boxes, those children of mine, big empty boxes that devoured my life piece by piece. They packed my clothes, my few books, a handful of kitchen items. Mama, you won't need this, Clara would say, holding up a chipped vase I'd had for 50 years, a gift from my late husband. Or this, David would add, eyeing the jar of acorns I still kept on the windowsill. The little jar of David's childhood treasures. They threw them away, right into a trash bag. My heart wrenched. No, I cried, a desperate sound. Please, no, those are David's. But David just looked at me, his eyes distant. Mom, you're confusing things. Those are just old acorns. You don't need them. The memories, the love, the meaning of those acorns, it was nothing to them. Just junk. They sold most of my furniture, gave away my mother's sewing machine, the one I used to mend all their little torn the day they moved me. It was a blur of frantic activity and a profound sense of numbness. My old apartment, stripped bare, echoed my new reality. The walls were empty, no longer filled with Clara's drawings or David's school reports. The smell of freshly baked bread was gone, replaced by the faint antiseptic scent of cleaning solution. I looked around one last time, at the empty shell of my home, tears blurring my vision. Clara hugged me tight, a fleeting embrace. "We'll visit every week, Mama. We promise. You'll love it here." David nodded, squeezing my shoulder. "It's for the best, Mom. You'll see." Their words were hollow, ringing in the vast empty space. I wanted to believe them. I needed to believe them. I clung to those words like a lifeline. "Okay, my dears," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Okay." I knew, deep down, it was a lie. A kind lie, perhaps, but a lie nonetheless. That was the last time I saw them together. The nursing home isn't bad. No, it isn't. The nurses are kind, some of them. There's a little garden outside with roses, and sometimes I sit there and just breathe in the quiet. But it's not my home. It never will be. And the every week visits, they lasted for about a month. Then it was every other week. Then once a month. Then a phone call. Maybe, if I was lucky. And now it's just silence. The phone here in this quiet room doesn't ring at all. They changed their numbers, you see. So I couldn't even call them if I wanted to. I have a small framed photo of them from when they were children, smiling up at me, tucked beside my bed. Sometimes I trace their faces with my trembling finger. "My David, my Clara," I whisper. Where did I go wrong? Was I too much? Did I love you too fiercely? The questions echo in the silence, unanswered. Here's the part that makes me cry every single night. It's not just the missing them. It's the knowing that I tried so hard, sacrificed so much, only to become invisible. They tell me my memory is going, but I remember every single one of those empty promises, every single time they said soon. I remember the day the monthly check stopped coming for my pension, the one they said they needed for my care. The nursing home director, a stern but polite man, had to explain it to me. Your children informed us they no longer have access to those funds, Mrs. Peterson. You'll need to apply for state assistance. My children. They took my money, and then they vanished. Just like that? The realization hit me like a physical blow. They hadn't just abandoned me. They had stripped me of everything, including my dignity. I still pay his health insurance, David's, even though he abandoned me. The bills still come to my old address, and the kind woman from the post office forwards them here. It's not much, just a small supplementary policy I took out for him years ago, when he started his own business. He probably doesn't even know. But I can't stop paying it. It's the last thread, you see. The last little bit of being a mother, of taking care of my boy. Sometimes I sit here and wonder what they're doing. Are they happy? Do they laugh? Do they ever just for a moment think of their old mama, sitting alone in this quiet room, wishing for a simple phone call? A simple, "I love you, Mama." I'm afraid of dying alone, of no one noticing, of just fading away, forgotten, like an old photograph in an empty house. You know what's worse than death? Being alive and forgotten. That's what it feels like most days. Each morning the sun spills through the same window, onto the same bland curtains, waking me to the same silence. There's no little voice calling, "Mama, what's for breakfast?" No excited footsteps. Just the quiet whir of the air vent and the distant clatter of the breakfast cart down the hall. I get up, slowly, my bones protesting, and go through the motions. Wash, dress, brush my thin hair, But there's no real purpose to it. No one is coming to see me. No one cares if my hair is neat or if I'm wearing my favorite blue sweater. It's just a way to fill the time until the next empty meal. Meals. Oh, the meals. They bring them to my room. A tray with lukewarm food. Sometimes it's something I used to make for my children, a stew or mashed potatoes. And I sit here at this small table, imagining David at one end, teasing Clara. Clara giggling, her cheeks flushed. I chew slowly, trying to remember the taste of their laughter, the warmth of a shared meal. But the food is bland. The silence is so loud it hurts my ears. I push the peas around with my fork, a small, futile act of rebellion against the emptiness. Who would I complain to? The kind nurse, Maria, who rushes through her rounds. She has too many others to care for. Sometimes I save a biscuit just in case one of them miraculously appeared, hungry from a long drive. But they never do. The biscuit grows stale. The phone sits on my small bedside table, a black, silent monument to broken promises. It never rings. Not for me, anyway. I used to stare at it, willing it to make a sound, to light up with a message. But it just sits there, reflecting my lonely face back at me. I've stopped looking at it mostly. It's too painful, too constant a reminder. Instead, I talk to my photographs. There's one of David, about 6 years old, missing his 2 front teeth, holding a fish he'd caught in the creek. My boy, I whisper, tracing his toothless grin. You were so proud, weren't you? My David, you love the creek. And Clara, about 5, in a little white dress, holding a bouquet of dandelions. My little flower girl, I murmur. You always found beauty, even in weeds. You wanted to be a teacher, my Clara. My baby girl. Their eyes in the photos, they look back at me, full of life, full of the love I remember. They don't know what happened. They're still just children, innocent and hopeful. It's easier to talk to them like this, before the grown-up versions came and shattered everything. Mother's Day. That one was a cruel twist of the knife. All the other residents, their rooms filled with flowers, cards, noisy families, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all buzzing with life. The smell of perfume and fresh-cut roses drifting down the hall. I heard the laughter, the happy shouts. The nurses, bless their hearts, they tried. Mrs. Peterson, do you have any plans today? They'd ask, their voices too bright. I just nodded, a vague smile on my face. Oh yes, my children will be calling later. I'd lie. They're very busy, you know. Then I'd pretend to be asleep. I'd pull the thin blanket over my head, burying myself in the darkness, wishing I could disappear, wishing the day would just end. It was easier not to see the others, not to feel the stark contrast between their joy and my desolate room. No flowers, no calls, no memory of lemon meringue pie. Just the heavy, suffocating silence. Was I a bad mother? Where did I go wrong as a parent that my children forgot me on the one day meant to honor mothers? That question burns, a constant ember in my fading mind. If you think this is sad, wait until you hear what I found out. It's the kind of truth that doesn't just sting. It pulverizes you, leaving nothing but dust. This happened just last month. A new resident arrived on my floor, a lovely woman named Mrs. Eleanor Vance. I knew the name, vaguely, from my old church years ago. She was a few years younger, always sat a few rows behind me. We'd exchange pleasantries after service. I remembered her kind eyes. I was so grateful to see a familiar face, even if only distantly. It was a small spark of connection in this vast, lonely place. We started sitting together in the common room sometimes, sharing a cup of tea. It was a comfort, a small appreciation in my otherwise desolate life. One afternoon we were talking, just small talk, about the weather, about the terrible hospital food. She was a little confused too sometimes, like me. Her family, she told me, had moved her here because her old house had become too much for her to manage. My lovely little bungalow on Elm Street, she sighed, just across from the park. I miss my garden terribly. My heart gave a little jolt. Elm Street? I asked, my voice a little too eager. I used to live near Elm Street, on Oak Avenue, actually. Number 14. Mrs. Vance paused, stirring her tea. Her eyes brightened. Oak Avenue. Oh, I know that street. I used to walk my dog down there. A beautiful old house at number 14, with that magnificent old oak tree in the front yard, and a little porch swing. A surge of warmth, of recognition spread through me. Yes, I exclaimed, my voice trembling with excitement. That was my house. My husband planted that oak tree when David was born. And the porch swing. Clara loved that swing. She used to read her books there for hours. It was the most I'd felt alive in years, talking about my home. My actual home. Mrs. Vance nodded, a small sad smile on her face. Ah, yes. I remember it well. Such a shame what happened to it, isn't it? Such a pretty house. My smile faltered. What happened to it, dear? My children, David and Clara. They said they were going to sell it and use the money for my care. But they said it would find a good family. Keep the memories. A shadow crossed Mrs. Vance's face. She looked away, fiddling with her teacup. Oh dear, I thought you knew. I'm so sorry, Martha. It was bought by a developer. Last year, I think. Tore it right down. Put up one of those big modern apartment blocks. Ugly, if you ask me. Blocked out all the sun from my backyard. The words hit me like a physical blow. Tore it down. My house, my home, my oak tree, the porch swing, all gone. Replaced by an ugly modern apartment block. I stared at her, my mouth open, trying to process it, trying to make sense of what she was saying. My children. They hadn't just sold it. They hadn't tried to preserve the memories. They had allowed it to be destroyed. My David, my Clara, who promised they would take care of everything, who whispered, "We'll always be here, Mama." They had lied, not just about the visits, not just about the money, but about the very essence of my life, my history. I felt a cold dread spread through me, colder than any winter wind. But my things, I whispered, my voice barely audible. My furniture, my mother's locket, my wedding ring, the jar of acorns David gave me. Mrs. Vance looked genuinely distressed. Oh, Martha, I don't know about that. But they had one of those big estate sales, you know, before the demolition. Everything went. Neighbors picked through it like vultures, I'm afraid. Nothing left. They cleared the lot entirely. Everything went. Nothing left. Not just the house, but everything inside it. The locket, the ring, the acorns. They didn't keep anything. They didn't care. They didn't sell it for my care. They sold it to line their own pockets, erasing my entire existence in the process. My mind, usually a little foggy, was terrifyingly clear in that moment. It was a clarity born of absolute devastation. The beautiful, vibrant house that smelled of bread and dust and children, gone. Turned into an anonymous concrete block. My memories, my entire life, simply bulldozed. That's the part that makes me cry every single night. Not just once, but over and over again. It's the image of the bulldozers tearing down the walls I had painted, uprooting the tree my husband had planted, smashing the porch swing where Clara used to dream. My children, my David, my Clara, they let it happen. They orchestrated it. They watched my home, my past, my very identity, be razed to the ground for profit. And they lied to me about it, wrapped it up in pretty words about care and safety. I don't just feel forgotten anymore. I feel eradicated, like I never existed at all. The silence in this room used to be heavy. Now it feels like a gaping wound. Sometimes I just sit and stare at the wall, seeing not the bland paint, but the ghost of my oak tree, the outlines of my porch, the shadows of David and Clara playing in the garden. My world, my real world, is gone, and the ones who took it from me were the very ones I built it for. I still pay his health insurance, David's, that small policy. But why? What purpose does it serve now, to care for a boy who erased my entire life? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't just feel forgotten anymore. I feel eradicated, like I never existed at all. The silence in this room used to be heavy. Now it feels like a gaping wound. Sometimes I just sit and stare at the wall, seeing not the bland paint, but the ghost of my oak tree, the outlines of my porch, the shadows of David and Clara playing in the garden. My world, my real world, is gone. And the ones who took it from me were the very ones I built it for. I still pay his health insurance, David's, that small policy. But why? What purpose does it serve now, to care for a boy who erased my entire life? I don't understand. I don't understand. After Mrs. Vance told me about the house, about the bulldozers, I just sat there. The tea in my cup grew cold. My hands started to tremble. And it wasn't from my Parkinson's, no. It was from the shock, the grief. My children. David. My David who caught the fish in the creek. Clara. My sweet Clara who drew the fairies. How could they? How could they tear down everything? Everything that was us? Sometimes I ask myself, where did I go wrong? I replay everything in my mind, searching for the moment, the word, the action that pushed them away. Did I work too much? Was I always so tired when I came home from cleaning those offices? Did I ever make them feel like a burden when I struggled to put food on the table, to buy them those new shoes? I remember sometimes being short-tempered after a night of scrubbing floors, my back aching, my head throbbing. Did I snap at David when he tracked mud in, or at Clara when she spilled her milk? Did those small human moments of weariness build up into a wall between us? I tried to give them everything, every penny, every bit of my strength. Maybe I smothered them. Maybe my love was too much, too fierce. Maybe I pushed them too hard to succeed, because I wanted a better life for them. A life without hunger, without worn-out shoes. Was that a mistake? To want so much for them that I forgot to teach them? What? Kindness? Loyalty? Or did they learn it and just forgot to apply it to their old mama? The questions spin in my head, a dizzying carousel of guilt and confusion, and no one is here to give me an answer. But what happened next broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. No, that already happened. This is different. This is the quiet, chilling realization that settles deep in your bones after the heartbreak has faded. It's the kind of pain that feels like ice, not fire. I wanted to write them a letter. I still do sometimes. I sit here at this small table with a piece of paper and a pen provided by the kind nurse, Maria. I start to write, "My dearest David, my dearest Clara." And then my hand trembles. and the words get stuck. What would I say? Would I scream at them? Would I beg? Would I ask them one last time? Why? I imagine writing about the house, about the oak tree, about the acorns they threw away. I'd tell them about the smell of fresh bread that isn't there anymore, about the silence, about Mrs. Vance, bless her heart, who didn't know the devastation she caused. I'd tell them how much I miss them, even after everything, how I still love them, a deep, aching love that no betrayal can extinguish. I'd tell them that even with my mind slipping, I remember them. I remember their baby smells, their first steps, their laughter. I remember their promises, and then I'd ask, "Do you remember me?" I'd fill the page with my tears, let them smudge the ink, so they would know the depth of my sorrow. But I never send it. What good would it do? They changed their numbers. They've already moved on. The letter would just sit here, a testament to a love that was given freely and never returned. I forgive them, you know. I truly do. It hurts to say it, to even think it, but the anger, it's too tiring for an old woman. It's too heavy. I raised them to be good, to be kind. And maybe they are, to others. Maybe they just don't have enough room in their busy, successful lives for a fading old woman who sometimes forgets her own name. But the pain of being forgotten, that doesn't go away. Forgiveness doesn't make the silence quieter. It doesn't bring back the house or the memories they destroyed. It doesn't make the phone ring. It just means I no longer carry the burden of hatred on top of the burden of loneliness. It's a quiet, sorrowful kind of peace, the kind that feels like giving up a piece of yourself. This is the part that makes me cry every single night, realizing that a mother's love, that vast, boundless ocean of love, isn't always reciprocated, that you can pour your entire being into another person, raise them, nurture them, sacrifice everything for them, and still end up alone. It's a hard truth, a bitter pill to swallow when you're 82 years old, and the only people you have left are the faded photographs on your bedside table. My children, my David, my Clara. They built their own lives, their own families, on the foundation I provided, and then they kicked the ladder out from under me. They didn't just abandon me, they erased me from their history. And I, Martha, the woman who gave them everything, am left here in this quiet room, waiting for an ending I know will come alone. If you are watching this, my dear, if you have parents or a grandparent, still with you, still breathing, still carrying the weight of their years, please, listen to an old woman's words. Listen with your heart, not just your ears, because this is the part that will stay with you long after my voice fades. You see me now, a faded shadow in a quiet room, my mind sometimes a tangled mess, a puzzle with missing pieces. But one day, if you're lucky enough to grow old, it will be you. You will be in my place, staring at nothing but four walls, waiting for a knock on the door, a visit that never comes. You'll sit by a silent phone, remembering the joyful noise it used to make. The silence is so loud it hurts my ears. It pounds in my chest, a constant reminder of what's been lost. It's not grand gestures that an old heart longs for. It's not expensive gifts, not shiny new cars, not even a big house. It's a phone call that says, "Mama, I'm thinking of you," even if it's just for 5 minutes. It's a card on your birthday that actually arrives, with a handwritten note, not just a quickly signed name. It's a cup of tea shared, just sitting, holding a hand, listening to stories you've heard 100 times. A simple touch, a quiet presence, a reminder that you are still seen, still loved. These small things, these tiny threads of connection, They are the difference between living and just existing. They are the water for a wilting plant, the light in a dark room. My children, my David, my Clara, they took my savings. They tore down my home. They sold my mother's locket. But that's not what I mourn most. I mourn the laughter that's gone from my life, the warmth of a shared meal, the comfort of a loving touch that's missing. I mourn the stories they no longer want to hear, the wisdom they no longer seek. What truly matters at the end of life isn't money or status or success. It's the memories you've made, the love you've given and received, the connection to the people you brought into this world. Those are the treasures. Those are what you take with you. My mind, it slips, you know. Some days I don't know if it's Tuesday or Friday, if I've eaten breakfast or lunch. But I know this. Later comes with no guarantee. Don't leave it for later. Don't let your busyness, your own children, your own life, become an excuse to forget the people who gave you everything. Don't let those small things you meant to do pile up until they become a mountain of regrets. Because one day, that mountain will be too high to climb, and it will be too late. The phone will be silent forever. The door will never open. So please, I beg you, don't make the same mistake my David and Clara made. Hug your parents. Tell them you love them, today. Today, while they can still hear you, while they can still feel your touch, while their eyes can still sparkle with recognition. Don't let them sit alone, wondering where they went wrong, why they are no longer wanted. I still see their faces, my David, my Clara, as children, in my dreams. I still hold on to the hope, a tiny flicker in this vast darkness, that before I close my eyes forever, before this old heart stops beating, I might just see them one last time. Is that too much to ask? Just one last hug, one last, I love you, Mama, before I'm truly gone. This was the story of Martha, one among millions of abandoned elders. Her voice, fragile and filled with the wisdom of 82 years, echoes a plea that far too many never get to make. It's a plea for connection, for recognition, for the simple, profound comfort of knowing you are loved and remembered. If Martha's story, if her heartbreaking honesty, has touched your heart even a fraction as deeply as it has touched mine, then please, don't put off that call, that visit, until tomorrow. Don't let the rush of life blind you to the quiet suffering of those who gave you everything. Time doesn't go back, and regret, as Martha reminded us, is often the only feeling that has no cure. It lingers, a cold shadow, long after the opportunity has passed. Open your heart to this message. Share this video with someone you believe needs to hear it. Perhaps a friend, a family member, or even a colleague. Let Martha's pain be a catalyst for change, a spark to rekindle compassion. And if you have elderly parents or grandparents, still with you, still breathing, still carrying their love for you in their hearts, hug them for me. Hug them while you still can. Hold their hand. Listen to their stories, even the ones you know by heart. Let them feel your presence, your warmth, your unwavering affection. Because these moments, these simple acts of love, are the true treasures of life. They are what truly matters. Subscribe to the channel, Portraits of Life, Pain in the Soul, for more stories like Martha's, stories that remind us of the precious fragility of human connection and the profound importance of cherishing our elders before it's too late. Let us never forget.